Hi, I'm your host, Larissa Worstiak. Through this podcast, I aim to empower and inspire jewelry entrepreneurs and innovators so they can thrive by doing what they love. I'm passionate about digital marketing for jewelry brands, and I'm excited to share my passion with you. This is episode 146, and today I'll be sharing my interview with Shayne McCoy Hollander. Like my guest Jeff in the previous episode 145, I first met today's guest at this year's JCK Las Vegas show when I was on a panel about the topic, The Fringe of Marketing and Branding with Shayne, former Joy Joya podcast guest Jen Cullen Williams, and Ben Smithee of the Smithee Group. It was a super fun panel, and I really loved hearing Shayne's insights about the topic. Shayne is an experienced social media and digital marketing consultant and the founder of Straight Up Social, a boutique social media and digital marketing agency specializing in social media strategy, email marketing, website design, and SEO. She offers luxury brands in the jewelry industry a straightforward and structured approach to digitally reaching and engaging consumers. For nearly a decade, Shayne has managed the global social media for large corporate and nonprofit brands such as the Gemological Institute of America, GIA of course. You can find her social media tips and tricks featured in trade publications like National Jeweler, In-Store Magazine, and JCK Online. In this episode, Shayne and I discuss the state of social media marketing for the jewelry industry today. How can jewelry brands navigate all the rapid changes and still reach their target customers? How can influencer marketing and paid advertising integrate with a comprehensive social media strategy? We cover it all. I know it's a topic that frustrates many, and I hope that Shayne and I can clarify a few things for you. But before we get to the interview, I want to share some marketing-related news and insights from the past week that caught my attention. Live stream shopping is becoming an absolute necessity for e-commerce brands today. One report from CoreSite Research suggests that live stream shopping could reach $25 billion by 2023 in the US. According to a new article from Retail Dive, Macy's is the latest retailer to adopt it. Macy's is currently updating its mobile app with a new design and navigation, allowing shoppers to curate their personal style, browse Macy's selection, and create lists of their favorite products. They're also launching a weekly live streaming shopping experience called Macy's Live. So they're definitely taking steps to stay competitive and relevant in the future of marketplaces and e-commerce. Nordstrom also introduced its shoppable live stream platform earlier this year. Now, some of you listening are probably like, these are major corporations. How does this apply to me? I think live streaming is definitely the future of e-commerce in general, and I do believe that smaller brands can even leverage it on a smaller scale. So, for example, doing Instagram live trunk shows or Facebook live trunk shows. So I definitely invite you to think about this and how you can make it applicable to you, looking to these bigger companies as inspirations, and then finding platforms and tailoring it for your specific situation. According to a recent article from Outage, lots of e-commerce retailers, especially those that sell jewelry, are becoming increasingly frustrated with social media advertising and seeking alternatives. We'll touch a little bit about social media advertising in the interview in this episode, but I thought that this article was really interesting. So Uncommon Goods, if you are not familiar with them, they are a competitor to Etsy. They sell really unique products, including jewelry. They're actually debuting their first national TV spot this week. So through its 22-year existence, Uncommon Goods has advertised on a plethora of channels, marketing through things like catalog mailers, social media, and search engines. However, Facebook's recent issues have driven the company to experiment with totally new channels. So according to them, they've seen a degradation in performance from Facebook, and also changes in reporting metrics have caused them to kind of lose faith in advertising on the platform. Their spend on social media advertising has plummeted 80%. A year ago, Uncommon Goods spent about 30% of its marketing budget on Facebook, including Instagram, and now that budget is closer to 5%. They're definitely trying to come up with alternative ways of estimating Facebook's impact other than just relying on the reporting that they think is definitely flawed. So this week, Uncommon Goods will air a series of 13 and 15-second spots on both television and YouTube, highlighting the uniqueness and wide range of their products as, quote, hand-picked gifts for different types of people. Again, probably if you're a small brand, you're thinking, I'm not going to be advertising on television. But I like to highlight these things because I want to show you that big brands are trying to think outside of the box. They're just as frustrated with some of these marketing channels as you may be. So it's important to keep challenging the status quo and asking yourself, how can I maybe spend my marketing dollars more efficiently, do something different, maybe not follow what other jewelry brands are doing to stand out from the crowd. And finally, an article from Martech is all about how marketers responded to the recent global outage of Facebook-owned sites like Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. So some resourceful email marketers seized this opportunity and got super creative by launching quick campaigns that were kind of in response to this global outage. Within an hour after Facebook's platform got knocked out, the first emails began to fill up inboxes, and you may have noticed some of them. So some really creative subject lines, like one from Mott and Bow, here's a distraction while Instagram, Facebook are down. Or this one from Lulu's, Instagram got you down. Some marketers likely scrapped original subject lines, maybe sent out the campaign that they were going to send, but tweaked it slightly to be relevant to the moment, which I think is really creative. Like Rifle Paper Company had a subject line, Instagram may be down, but our holiday arrivals are up. Other brands came up with entirely new campaigns on the fly and even created custom coupon codes to celebrate this event. For example, Postable and the apparel retailer James May. Postable's subject line was Facebook and Instagram relief is here. And a James May subject line was Instagram is down, so we have a sale. I love it. What are the takeaways from this? So first, controlling access to your audience pays off. When things like Facebook and Instagram go down, it can really feel like a loss of control for a brand. So knowing that you have these channels like email marketing that you have more measured control over is really important. And knowing that you can turn to these channels in times like an outage. Another really important lesson to take away from this is to remember to be agile and nimble as a marketer. So in marketing, things and in business, things don't always go as planned. Instead of being disappointed or discouraged that a social media campaign you had planned can't be executed because of circumstances outside of your control, think quickly and execute an email campaign like some of the brands did in the examples that I shared. And then a final takeaway is email really deserves a lot more respect and allocated budgets from brands. This outage just reinforced the many reasons why email is the reigning digital marketing channel. If you want to get the links I shared in this segment of the podcast, you can sign up for my email newsletter by visiting joyjoya.com/sign up, and you'll get a digest with the links whenever a new episode drops. Okay, let's jump right into my interview with Shayne. Hi, Shayne. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you as my guest today.
It is a pleasure to be here, Larissa. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell our listeners a little bit about how you built your career in the field of social media marketing, and also specifically how you found your niche in the jewelry industry.
Yeah, so I found social media by accident. It was basically, I started my career when social media was starting to become a position, for a very long time. It was only reserved for friends and more of like a friend network. And then it started becoming a platform where businesses could advertise and promote their products and brand. I was working for an indoor sports company called the Active Network. I worked on daily deal campaigns in the marketing department of the Active Network, and our team got laid off, about 17 of us. And I actually wanted to go work for a competitor of theirs. And at my going away party, I had already applied for a position, a merchandising position, which is not really what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do marketing. And the CMO was at this brewery. And I just went up to him and I said, "Hi, my name is Shayne. I just applied for a position at your company." And the company was it was a company called Competitor Group, which owned and operated the Rock and Roll Marathon Series, a big running event where they have music at every mile. And I said, I applied for this merchandising position, but I really want to be on your marketing team. And I just like laid it all out there. And he said, "Well, that's really interesting that you approached me because we're actually creating a brand new position. We're like literally writing it from scratch. And it's going to be a global social media position." And I knew nothing. I mean, obviously I knew a lot about social in terms of my own personal. I was one of the first to join when they released it to colleges and universities with a .edu email. And so I jumped at the chance and the opportunity to take that role. And I basically built up the program at the Rock and Roll Marathon Series, marketing the races, the running events, marathons, half marathons. I worked, we had about 30 international and domestic running events, and I worked on about half of those events, and got to travel to some of them and do the social, kind of at a very local level, like trying to get runners excited about the running destinations they were going to and what they could expect at the race. And then, I decided after about 2 years of working there that it was kind of time to move on. I wanted to learn more. And a former colleague and friend of mine was the director of branding at GIA, the Gemological Institute of America, and they were hiring for a global social media manager. And at the time, I was living in San Clemente, and that office was a lot closer. And so I applied for the position based on my experience doing social, and that's how I landed in the jewelry industry. So yeah,
That sounds like a really fun journey.
it was, and it was, it definitely. They had warned me, like, jewelry is a totally different language. It'll take some time to learn. And we have, obviously GIA had a ton of like industry experts and gemologists on site. And so I got to learn and study basically under them for 4.5 years, learning about gems and jewelry, and then going to some of the event trade shows like Tucson and JCK. And I think it was the pivotal moment for me was when I went to those events and I saw the excitement and passion from everyone in the industry. I just fell in love with the industry and knew, I'm going to stay in this industry.
That's awesome. So what is unique about social media for the jewelry industry? Like, are there certain platforms that work well for it, certain types of content? Like, what do you find works for this industry that maybe doesn't work for like a rock and roll marathon or like some other industry?
Well, I think for the jewelry industry, it's traditionally a brick and mortar industry, and a lot of multi-generational family, has worked in this industry for such a long time. And with the younger generation of jewelers that run these family-owned businesses or help with their families' businesses, they were born with social. They had social media at their fingertips and digital. And I think we're seeing this trend kind of going away from brick and mortar and, being able to reach such a wider audience, and also be able to showcase, like, rather than just showing your product in a display, you're able to showcase your jewelry on a person, add the human element. And social media is such a visual platform, especially Instagram, that you can show all the different ways you can wear something. You can place it on someone that is more of your audience demographic. So it really drives that home of like who you're trying to target. And so I think it's a great way to reach new people. And you can reach that niche. It just, there are some strategies obviously that we can dive into more on how to do that. But
So as I understand it, you are not just, I guess, specialized in social media marketing, but you also do all types of digital marketing like SEO, email marketing. Is that correct as well?
yeah. So kind of to rewind a little bit, after working at GIA, I, kind of dipped my toes in a lot of different things, mostly social media. I help manage the content plans across the different platforms, but also help with some of the email marketing and, providing, feedback on some of the web elements for GIA. And I just thought, there was a need, which is why I decided to go off on my own and create my own boutique agency, because all of these things, email, social, all those digital elements go hand in hand. Social media is kind of a supplement to all of those elements, and cross promoting your products, your event announcements, and all those things, company news, that you can cross promote on all these platforms. And so I do offer social media, website design, and more so layout versus like back end, um, and SEO, helping brands establish which organic keywords they should be using for users to find them organically.
How do you see social media fitting into that comprehensive strategy? Is it like more important than some of these things, less important, equally as important, or is it different for all brands?
I think it's different for all brands. I think, you have to first determine where your audience demographic and where your audience is most. And, obviously for the younger audiences, like 25 to, or even 18 to 34, you're going to find a lot of those people on Instagram, or, and then skewing older a little bit on Facebook or maybe Pinterest. And, they're digesting these platforms every day. It's part of their daily routines. um, and email is still such an important strategy, especially for like abandoned carts and things like that. But really being able to reach them in the moment, I think, is why social media is such a great tool.
So, a big question that comes up from people I talk to in the jewelry industry is about influencer marketing, whether it works for jewelry brands. Are there certain types of jewelry brands that should be using it? And how can it work alongside a social media marketing strategy?
I think influencer marketing is a really important part of your social media strategy, and you want to make sure that you're partnering with the right influencers, because there can be an influencer with several 100,000 followers, or that you can have an influencer which we often refer to as micro influencers, who have more of like the 50,000 follower range. And obviously you're going to be paying different price points, and you have to think about it as advertising, dollars that you're putting aside for them to help promote your product. But I think, doing your due diligence, researching, and are they like, a good voice in the industry? Look at their follower count, and then look at their, engagements on their feed to see if they kind of match up with that follower count, because you'll see like one post will have like several thousand engagements, and then the next post will have 20. So knowing like, are they paying for likes, are they legitimate, I think is a really important thing to consider. And then also, making sure you have like a contract agreement with them that they're going to be delivering what you want. And yeah.
Do you think that influencer marketing can work for fine jewelry brands? That's always a question mark.
Yes, I think it can work for fine jewelry brands in terms of driving brand awareness and reach, and to the page. But I think in terms of driving sales, that's the big question mark. Um, you know, what I've heard, and kind of researching that like average price points, anything that's kind of over that $800 threshold is really, it's really hard to get a conversion from that. It's going to take extra legwork, extra follow up. But I think working with those influencers and, doing some kind of educational event with them, whether it be a webinar, where they can discuss, you're partnering with them on trend talk or something like that to just really drive engagement and talk about like, we saw JCK yellow diamonds were such a big trend, and maybe you partner with an influencer that they talk about the trends of yellow diamonds, and then you're showcasing some of the yellow diamond jewelry that you have in stock. So I think that that's a great way to do it rather than focusing on just sales.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I like the idea of doing more educational content, but also being realistic about the fact that this is a brand awareness spend and that it will take those like extra follow-ups to actually convert that sale. And some brands I don't think are realistic enough about that and about what it takes to like nurture that customer across their journey.
Right. I think when oftentimes when brands are approaching, I don't know if I'm skipping along, but advertising, you my duty is to help identify for them like what their key KPIs or key performance indicators are. So, they're with so much competition in the news feed, you have to be for what your spend is also dependent on your price points. And the higher the price points, the higher your spend. So, you know, to get that one conversion for something that's $100,000, it's going to be really challenging. You're going to have to spend to compete with the rest of these big spending advertisers. You're going to have to spend a lot of money, and it probably won't be worth it. But focusing on optimizing to drive, link clicks to your website. Maybe you write a blog article, or you drive the link clicks directly to a product page, or anything really, any landing page, or maybe it's for reach, or so to drive more traffic for brand awareness. I think those are the types of things that especially smaller jewelry businesses with not a lot of marketing budget should focus on.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of frustration around social media in general today, especially when it comes to Instagram, because it's so rapidly changing. Do you see any specific challenges or frustrations like with the brands that you work with or consult with? What are they struggling with right now with social media?
Well, I think it's, we've seen this, Instagram early on, like it was so much easier to get those engagements. And, I think it's frustrating for brands to see those engagements falling off. And there's just, it's a lot harder to grow your channel organically. You have to spend a lot of advertising dollars or spend more consistently at least. But I think, just staying on top of all the changes, like when they roll out new mediums, like, when they rolled out reels, like not being afraid, just being more nimble and taking advantage of all of the new tools, because normally when they roll out those new tools, the performance metrics on those seem to be a lot better right when they come out, and then they kind of like level off. So I think, I like to follow, I use some publishing tools for Instagram specifically to do the layout, like Planoly. And then there's also Later, but those are also great channels or great things to subscribe to follow all of the updates and to make sure that you're staying on top of all the trends going on the
I
platform.
totally agree. So I subscribe to Later as well, and I got a email campaign from them yesterday about how IGTV and videos are like merging now, and they're getting rid of that feature. And I don't know if I would have like immediately found out about that if I wasn't like subscribed to these updates. So some of this stuff kind of goes under the radar and is not super publicized to like regular users of social media. So I think it's important to try, like you said, stay up to date with all of these things because they're changing so quickly.
Yeah, and also, like, I think a good thing is to always make sure, well, to do the update on your phone because it'll also update the apps, or make sure all the apps are updated because when they do these new rollouts, you want to make sure you're taking take advantage of those changes. And like you said, oftentimes I won't even know there's a change until I see that email come through from me. I use Planoly, but they'll also have great tutorials on how to do reels, how to do like the caption overlays on different slides, and you know, if you don't, if you need further instruction, you can always look up YouTube and look at YouTube videos on those instructions. So
Yeah, those are great tips. So, one obvious recent frustration that we all experienced was that the Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp outage. I'm curious, since you work in social media marketing, how did it impact your clients or any other jewelry brands that you know? What happened on October 4th?
well, yeah, I mean, it impacted some of my clients in terms of some of the, I was like, why isn't this post publishing? It was scheduled and I kept on trying to update and then realized I was getting this error message that the platform wouldn't load. So, you know, there was some posts that were delayed from that. I think what everyone realized is how reliant we all are on social media. And I did see, you know, after everything kind of went back online, so to speak, all these comments like, oh, how productive was your day since you didn't have social media? I'm like, well, mine wasn't that productive. I was also traveling. And so not only did I use WhatsApp for traveling internationally, I was international. So not only could I not access any of those platforms, the Wi Fi was down. So it just seemed to be like the end of the world type of day. Like I couldn't, I'm like, okay, I guess this is a forced relaxation day. Maybe I'll work on my taxes and
Oh, yes.
yeah. So, but you know, I think the learning in this and like COVID, you know, we've learned we have to just be really nimble in business and be able to, you know, like what if Facebook and Instagram went away? You know, there's still the other platforms we can utilize. There's email marketing. There's different, you know, you can host Zoom webinars. Zoom wasn't down. So, you know, I mean, we just have to be nimble and flexible in kind of rolling with the punches, so to speak, and not knowing that we can't rely forever on certain things.
Absolutely. So you had mentioned at the beginning of the interview that when you started your career in social media marketing, it was still kind of new as a marketing tool. Like prior to that, it was more connecting with friends, communicating. And then suddenly it shifted to like a mode of businesses reaching out to customers. I'm guessing that was like what, 2008ish, 2007ish.
Yeah, well, when I started my role, I think it was, well, when Facebook first rolled out, I think I joined in 2004, but it wasn't until I think 2013 that I started working for the insurance company doing social media. But it was still rather new. And, you know, there wasn't anyone to teach me the ropes. I kind of had to like learn by trial and error. And I
Yep.
think that was the best way of just being thrown in. And we also worked with a digital marketing agency at the time, and they were really great. And I learned a lot from them as well. So I think, you know, by going to the different social media day events and when everyone was learning together, we would all like share our feedback and what was working, what wasn't working. And that's how it evolved.
How have you seen social media change since then? I mean, it doesn't feel like what 2013 till now. That's not like a ton of time, but in technology world, that's like centuries long, basically. How have you seen the space change and evolve over that time?
Well, I definitely think the platform has become, you know, more dependent on advertising. And that's what, you know, originally it wasn't that way. And it was really great organically. Um, you know, so there is that competitiveness with, you know, knowing that you do have to, from time to time, you should probably put some advertising dollars behind posts, you know, and you can do like a $5 a day budget. It's something, but I think, you know, it's really reliant on advertising. And with that, you have so many ads being thrown at you, whereas before you had less. So there's a lot of competition. And so I think the important thing is to stay, oftentimes we'll see something we like from a different brand and be like, oh, I should do that. But all this, we'll copycat off of each other. And I think it's really important to kind of take a step back and say, wait, how can I really be authentic and stand out and try to do your own thing and be different and not copycat. Or maybe use those ideas that are really great that you see out there and try to make it your own in some way. I think, just staying nimble, staying authentic are the best ways to kind of continue to grow with the platforms.
Definitely. So speaking a little more about social media advertising, because I know even that space in the past year has changed a lot with like new data privacy updates. Now it's more difficult to like retarget certain groups of customers because of privacy laws, which are awesome for the consumer, but make it harder for marketers. Also, I feel like every direct to consumer e-commerce brand, jewelry and otherwise, is experimenting with social media ads. So it's just so competitive and saturated. Do you find with the ads that you manage or brands anecdotally that these kinds of ads are still effective? Are there certain use cases where it's maybe more effective than others? I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of smaller jewelry designers and mid-sized businesses, and I would say like it is really, I haven't seen a lot of success in running the paid ads for purchases. But what I have seen is when, for instance, I'm working with one client on their social, and I also help with their SEO and in writing blog articles that have those keywords peppered in, or that primary keyword peppered in with some semantically related keywords, and using chunks of that blog content for the social posts, and then driving, and there's product links all in this blog, and then driving traffic from those social posts back to the blog and individual pages. And so I think what I've seen is using, and then also they'll send out an email with the blog list, the blog post to all of their followers. So I think with all of those efforts, and then boosting a post and optimizing it for the link clicks to that particular post works really well. I think also we've done some tests like on Pinterest, particularly targeting, since it's a more female centric platform, targeting, looking at what those top top outbound clicks are on the pins, and then boosting the best performing pins on that channel. And I think that's, you've seen an increase in the traffic to that website. And I think, over time, that is going to be a better strategy in the long run, rather than just throwing dollars away and hoping for one purchase after spending like several $100s. I think that's the way to go.
Absolutely. You mentioned that you haven't seen a ton of success for conversion. I find that advertising is a hard sell to the small business owner who you tell them, oh, this probably won't be good for conversions, but like we'll get more traffic to your site. In your own words, can you explain the benefit of advertising for that purpose, even though you might not see a sale directly from it?
Yeah. So, the more eyeballs you have on your website, where people, especially if you're linking someone over to educational content. So, for instance, I did an article recently on Rolex Oyster perpetual watches, and describing the difference between, describing the different cases available, and dials and things like that. So, from there, people can then, once they land on your page, then hopefully the goal is to try to drive them to other pages on your site. and maybe they'll stick around. They'll find the content informative, and maybe they say, "Oh, I didn't know that," or "I didn't know that about Oyster Perpetual watches." And you learn the history behind them, why they were created. Um, like the Cartier Santos watch, for instance, was created after in a guy who was a pilot, and worked with Cartier. So he did all these like experimental flights, and so that's why the watch was named after him. So he didn't have to take his eyes off his, I don't know what you call it on a plane, but it's just learning interesting facts about products too, and why they came to be. And I think that's a great way to sell people on your products.
Yeah, those are really good examples. So I'm always looking for social inspiration. My clients are always looking for social inspiration. What are your favorite examples of jewelry brands that are quote unquote killing it on social media today?
I really like Shea Jewelry. They do a great job with like the stackables and the neck messes, and they I love the way that they combine their jewelry. They don't just post necessarily one piece; they're layering and then making sure they're tagging their products. I also like Deborah Navarro Jewelry. I like how she adds a lot of human element into her posts, especially a lot of her. She traveled to Africa and named a lot of her pieces after people she met in the mining community, the mining communities, which she gives back to. So I think that's a really great way to promote your products, and obviously if you can give back in any way. And then I also really like Ashley Zhang Jewelry. She does like antique and estate pieces, and I love how she's curated her page and all the things she posts. So
Amazing. Were there any others, or is that your list?
I mean, I could go on and on. I love Cartier. I love Jeweler Circle is a great Instagram platform. They're an online trading platform that evolved during COVID. So for people who couldn't go to in-person trade shows, they're an industry-only platform where you can buy, sell, and trade virtually, which is a really cool thing. And they also have great antique and estate pieces and contemporary, but they do a great job with having educational webinars and explaining the history and trends behind pieces. And
Amazing. Well, this has been so informative. I know my listeners are always looking for tips and information about social media, so I know that they will appreciate it. So thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Tell me, is there anything else you'd like to share? How can people contact you? What's going on in your business life?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm taking clients. So anyone who needs social media help or direction or help with their website, you can visit my website at straightupsocial.com or email me at Shayne, it's Shayne with a Y, SHAYNE at straightupsocial.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Shayne. It was awesome to have you today.
Thank you so much, Larissa.
It was such a pleasure to be able to talk to Shayne and get her perspective on social media marketing for the jewelry industry today. To learn more about Shayne and her business, Straight Up Social, please visit straightupsocial.com or follow on Instagram at straightupsocial. I look forward to sharing more interviews with you.